Linux is obsolete. This thing has more views than a lot of my YouTube videos. All right. I was in the U.S. for a couple of weeks, so I haven't commented much on Linux. Not that I would have said much had I been around, but for what it is worth, I have a couple of comments now. I wonder what Mr. Tanenbaum, Christmas tree, Mr. Christmas over here. I wonder what prevented him speaking on Linux until he made it to the U.S.
I was just thinking that seemed like the intro of your YouTube videos where it's a paragraph to say nothing.
Shut up. As most of you know, for me, Linux is a hobby. It's something that I do in the evening when I get bored, writing books and there is no major wars, revolutions, or Senate hearings being televised live on CNN. My real job is a professor and researcher in the area of operating systems. As a result, of my occupation, I think I know a bit about where operating... Wait, hold on. As a result of my occupation, I think I know a bit about where operating are going in the next decade or so. Two aspects stand out. Microkernel versus monolithic system. Most older operating systems are monolithic. That is, the whole operating system in a single A.out file that runs in kernel mode. This binary contains the process management, memory management, the file system, and the rest. Example of such systems are Unix, MS-DOS, VMS. Dude, the man has literally... Are we watching like the guy saying he's an expert only to be wrong later on?
This is just like the economist who said the internet was not going to be more impactful than the fax machine, Paul Krugman.
Or Michael Patcher that every single year starting from 2013 said, don't buy Netflix stock, it's never going to go up.
He's still bitter about that one.
I'm still
I
bitter.
do like that the first examples he gives are like literally the only operating systems people use.
So Unix and MS-DOS. I mean, to be fair, I think MS-DOS technically doesn't exist anymore. Hasn't it been? Isn't it something else now?
Yeah, but it's like the same. Is it not the same like general architecture?
Yeah,
right? I
assume,
mean, it's like and made by the same people. So
yeah, it's just now better. Look at the date at the top. We know what the date. It's 1992.
We probably should mention for the YouTube video.
Oh yeah, for those that are wondering, this is 1992. Okay.
I do also like how he starts to like. I watch CNN. I'm a professor. I'm an expert. I know where things are going. Unix and Microsoft, dead operating systems.
Dead. Not gonna work out. No one's gonna be using Unix. Nobody. And this is before, oh yeah, no, I guess Apple was on.
Oh, so Windows is not fully monolithic. Apparently chat knows more.
Okay, well, no, he said NT is not fully monolithic. But I'm not sure. All right, the alternative is a microkernel-based system in which most of the OS runs as a separate process, mostly outside the kernel. They communicate by message passing. The kernel's job is to handle the message passing, interrupt handling, low-level process management, and possibly the I/O. Examples of this design are the RC4000, Amoeba, Chorus, Mach, and the not yet released Windows NT.
Okay, so Windows NT is the new, that's the way that Windows works right now. Is that like COM? Is that like literally?
Windows was largely a mistake, so I'm not.
I mean, I'm not coming out here being a Windows defender.
Not going to see me defending Windows. All right. Well, I could go on a long story about the relative merits of the two designs. Suffice it to say that among the people who actually design operating systems, the debate is essentially over.
Oh, he just, let me just pull this out. Appeal to authority.
I am, and others are officially correct.
Actually, CNN said.
Microkernels have won. The only real argument for monolithic systems was performance, and there is now enough evidence showing that microkernel systems can be just as fast as monolithic systems. E.g., Rick Rashid has published papers comparing a Mach 3 to monolithic systems. That is now all over but the shoutin'. I don't know what Mach is.
That's a sick way to end an argument, though. Oh, it's all over except for the shouting.
Except for the shouting.
I'm stealing that one.
It's all over, but for the shouting.
I'm assuming it's just an operating system that actually died, unlike Unix.
I think you're right. All right, Linux is a microkernel-based system. The file system and memory management are separate processes running outside the kernel. The I/O drivers are also separate processes in the Linux or in the kernel, but only because the brain-dead nature of the Intel CPUs makes that difficult to do otherwise. Linux. Wow, there's so much capitalization going on here. Is Linux supposed to be an initial or an acronym that I'm unaware of?
Or initialization.
No, no, it'd be an acronym.
I don't know. I know. I just know that you don't like it when people use the wrong ones. But
Yes,
I don't know.
it's
which
not
way
called.
is right.
It's not called an initialization or whatever word you just used. It's called initialism. Okay,
Okay, sure.
Not to let my pedantry show, but
I got him.
initialism
I
is
debated him.
how you say GPT. An acronym would be calling it Jippity. All right. I got one guide, and I'm fine. I'm fine being one guide. All right. This is a giant step back down into the 1970s. That is like taking an existing working C program and rewriting it in BASIC. To me, writing monolithic system in 1991 is truly poor idea.
When he does all caps, can you just shout him each time going forward?
I don't know if that's a good idea. Okay.
Just every time he all caps is words that we don't all caps. Now it seems like he's screaming at us.
I mean, that might be fair.
Yeah.
All right. 2. Portability! Once upon a time, there was a 4004 CPU. Wait, no, I guess you.
CPU is fine.
CPU.
It's fine.
When it grew up and became an 8008. Then it underwent plastic surgery and became an 8080. It begat the 8086, which begat the 8088, which begat the 8286, which begat the 8386, which begat the 8486. Is this like the biblical styled lineage of something?
And so begot so and so.
When does King David appear in here? I just want to know that one.
Until the nth generation. He's doing a biblical allusion here.
And so on to the nth generation. In the meantime, RISC chips. By the way, has RISC actually happened yet? I've been here. I didn't realize that RISC was happening since 1992.
I do see that acronym and I don't know what it is, so I just ignore it usually.
It's just like I believe I'm a layman, but it's just like a reduced set of instructions. Whereas Intel 86 or the 86 series is like super. There's a lot of stuff, right? Am I effectively getting it correct? Is that RISC is relatively small? All your mobile devices are RISC.
I do like how chat is like, ARM is RISC, and then other people, ARM isn't really RISC, but it's generally considered RISC. We're about to accidentally do this article in Twitch chat. Yeah. We're going to do the 2025 version of RISC is obsolete. And actually, no, ARM is good. It's all over except for the shouting.
ARM isn't RISC anymore. ARM is definitely RISC.
Actually, guys, if you guys had a little bit more time and we had a little bit better threading support, every Twitch chat would turn into a Linux mailing list issue.
It really would. All right, someone said I didn't update the title. This is true. Oh my goodness. I can't see my mouse. Here, hold on. There is a partial way to fix this. HDMI live. Just re-execute the HDMI and sometimes my mouse comes back.
Oh, great.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Super easy.
Barely an inconvenience. All right. Hey, thank you, Sky. Shafto Dasu. Appreciate the tier 1. Brand new, by the way. Windows fixes this. Windows actually fixes this.
It's one of the few things that sentence actually works for.
All right. What are we naming this?
Linux is obsolete, 1992.
Let's see, Linux is obsolete. Did I get that correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of all caps just because it really fits the vibe.
Well, yeah, and especially if you keep up your 1992 edition slowed and reverbed.
I like it.
There's no way this video's making it out of today's stream.
You never know where this is gonna go. Okay, this could be the video that launches me into the stratosphere. Okay,
it's true. Mr. Beast is gonna watch this. Wow, I think we could really turn a game show out of reading Linux mailing lists. What was that movie?
It was from a while ago.
Okay.
Oh, there it goes. I refreshed it. Didn't set. Okay, here we go. Let's do some editing and edit. And save.
Nice.
Let's edit it just one more time. Repaste in something, add a space. Let's save it just one more time, because you never know.
It's a good way to double check.
Look at that. There I go.
Yeah, I know. I like the delay of you doing it is so good.
Yes, we got it. All right. There we go. Okay, let's keep on going.
92. What an excellent year for Flame Wars.
It's the progenitor of Flame Wars on the internet. All right. Let's see. These things aren't suddenly going to vanish. What is going to happen is that they will gradually take over from the 8086 line. Hey, to be fair, like we are now onto the ARM world, so maybe he wasn't completely incorrect, right?
Yeah,
Because
there is something to be said about it. He was just, but his prediction was, I know what's going to happen in the next 10 to 20 years. His timescale's off by 4. Like we're
yeah,
almost, you know?
yeah, we're 30 plus years
Because it's
into
not
this.
all the way done, right? So it's like we
Yeah.
still,
And there's still a lot of intelling happening too.
Yes.
So it's not like it's going anywhere.
Yeah.
They will run old MS-DOS programs by interpreting 386 in software. I didn't have it. I even wrote my own IBM PC simulator in C, which you can get by FTP from this place. Oh, that's cool. And then here's a. By the way, here's a IP
in
address.
case you needed an IP.
Back then, you know, like Yellow Pages for the internet. You know, that was a real commercial.
Yeah.
There was Yellow Pages for the internet.
Well, like my at Calvin, they have a whole block like of IP addresses where I went to school.
They
Like,
just own IP addresses?
They have a big block of public IPs because a bunch of colleges and universities, like his college probably owns some subnet here. Like, oh, they own 192.31.231 or something like that. Like, because if you were early enough in and you were like, oh, we're
Yeah.
doing stuff with it and everything, you could literally get a huge block, and no one's gonna take it away now.
Yeah, I
You
know,
what
it's too
mean?
late to take away.
Yeah.
And it's just like back then, they're like 4 billion addresses. We don't need that much.
Yeah, right. So they're like,
Half of them, not even usable, go them to the government.
right. Well, and then it's like they were like, here, oh, you're a college doing stuff. Have a subnet domain. How else am I gonna talk to you from
Yeah.
here? Right. It was like there was, so it was pretty popular at the time to give big blocks of them to universities, and like I think Calvin still had them, and there was like talks of them selling them to some, like Comcast was like, please let us buy these. We need more IP addresses. We're running out, bro. Just one more IP address,
Bro, that's why you can't do a lot of things on Cloudflare if you don't, or you can't do HTTP on Cloudflare if you don't add the host header. Because the host header is actually what does a lot of these routings.
Oh, interesting.
Because when you have like an IP address and you're like, hey, I need to send HTML to this IP address, they're like,
yeah.
well, that technically maps to like 900 things underneath the hood.
Right.
What's the host?
Yeah, which host? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, like that's why on what's it called on Fly.io, I couldn't just do a TCP socket. Because it's just like I don't know where
I don't know where. Right.
What are you talking? I don't know what
Other
this
people
is.
Going to the same IP makes sense.
Yeah. That's how we got around the 4 billion problem. Okay. All right. Minix was designed to be reasonably portable and has been ported from the Intel line to the 680 hex, Atari, Amiga, Macintosh, Spark, and NS. I've never even heard of that one. Linux is tied fairly closely with the 8086. Not the way to go. Yeah, there is something that is very funny about making predictions, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, if this guy had been right, everyone would be like, he's a genius. He saw the future. He's a modern day Nostradamus.
He's the Oracle from Omaha. This man knows.
Yeah.
Dude, don't get me wrong. I'm not unhappy with Linux. I will get all the people who want to turn Minix in BSD Unix off my back. But in all honesty, I would suggest that people who want a modern free OS look around for a microkernel-based portable OS like maybe GNU or something like that. P.S. Just as a random aside, Amoeba has a Unix emulator running in user space, but it is far from complete. If there are any people who would like to work on that, please let me know. To run Amoeba, you need a few 386s, one of which needs 16 megabytes, and all that which needs a WD Ether card.
That particular Ethernet card, too.
Yeah. This is a Western Digital Ethernet card. It's very specific.
It's a very portable microkernel. If you don't have exactly these things, you will not be able to work on it with me.
Western Digital represent. Let's go, dude. This is. I mean, this makes me this does make me realize that I always say that I just don't think AI is going to take your jobs in this decade. Like this is just not the decade to think about it or worried about it. Hopefully I don't end up like Andy Tanenbaum.
Oh, I thought you were going to make the reverse point, which is that things often change less than people expect them to because the world's much more complex. And many of the people who are saying, you just replace everything with Linux in this with programming. programming is obsolete. Oh, you guys are running in this language and that language. I'm using Claude 3.7. It just came out, and you have to like.
Yeah,
this
you could
screams
go that
much
route, too.
more. This is why I generally like. I do think. I like to
I think I'm
not
right.
make predictions. Oh, I was just gonna say I don't want to make predictions because it's very easy to be wrong because I don't understand the world well enough to predict what's gonna happen for billions of people. But like, because this strikes me more similar to like the AI hype cycle. Like this hype cycle that everyone's seeing right now, it's happened for every other technology every other time too.
It is true. It's just that the impact was in smaller and tighter circles.
Yeah.
So you just didn't get it as visibly as it is.
Well,
now.
I would say probably like maybe in software, but there's been plenty of innovations throughout the world's history that have like way more affected people than what AI currently has done. Like 90-something% of people used to be farmers. It's not like 90% of people are software developers right now. And then even if we completely automated software developers tomorrow, that would put way less of a societal change than...
Because they're still farmers.
Right, we still have them, yeah. So I just think, like, if you think about what the world looked like 200 years ago, it bears very little resemblance in a lot of ways
Yeah.
to what it looks like right now. Like, certainly people weren't flying across the country to write an application together in one day and launch it on the internet to get DDoSed.
Yeah,
Like-
that happened yesterday.
That was us yesterday, but, like, that was not a sentence that made any sense before. So it's just, I think there's a little bit, like... There's a little bit of recency bias and a lack of understanding of how much the world like has changed lots of times before, maybe too, where I don't know. It's just
Perhaps people, because I love to be able to bring any conversation and bring it in and relate it to React. But perhaps the fast changing pace and nature of front end, specifically around React, gives people the allure or the illusion that tech and everything changes fast.
oh yeah, because I just install a new npm package every week. Like that's how the rest of the world works, and then they forget that like all of American banking is just FTPing flat files to each other every night to do wires and stuff.
Because to be fair, like so many, especially people that have yet to make it into the employment realm, that are just like starting to learn, always are talking about the latest and greatest thing, and then you like hate to break it to them and be like, hey guys, by the way, when you get hired, you're going to be using React classes on React, like the original version, and it's going to be a nightmare. Like that's what's going to happen.
Or you're going to be writing Java Spring 3.
Like I hate to tell you this.
And the other thing is, it's just like even if you have a technologically way to solve it, doesn't mean everyone picks it up. Like obviously NeoVim is superior
Yeah,
to a lot of other editing experiences,
I would agree.
but a lot of people don't choose to use it anyways. So
Yeah.
so there's still there's people issues. There's a bunch of other stuff in the world. Like let's say we could automate lawyers
Do you know
tomorrow.
Andrew S. Tanenbaum? He wrote a lot of SaaS books. Read it while studying in Dortmund, Germany. We had a prof, and they always had beef, mocking each other's in papers.
That's so cool.
That's such a great little lore line to drop in here to be like, by the way,
That's so awesome.
this guy beefing with other people.
But I did want to just say, like, even if we had the technology to like eliminate lawyers as a profession, do you think lawyers will let us automate them out of their jobs, or will they make new laws and rules and stuff to make it so? Right. So there's, even if you have the thing, technology doesn't exist just like inside of its vacuum.
Yeah. The world does not shape itself immediately around technology.
Yeah.
Like right now we have a bunch of rules about, who owns what, copyright and all that.
Yeah.
And we've clearly just thrown it completely out the window for LLMs. But like that, there's that impending storm that's coming up that hasn't even existed yet.
Yes.
That at some point, this is all going to come to a head, and then we have like this whole reversion of the tech, and everything's going to get all crazy, and then who knows what the actual outcome of all of this is going to be.
Yeah.
Sam Altman may not have high-flying fast cars anymore.
He does like fast cars.
He does like
I can't
fast
blame him.
I want to be in a fast car.
If I was doing it just for the love of the game, I would also get a fast car.
If I was in it just for charity and humanity, I also would buy a $5 million car. Like, I don't see why you wouldn't.
He's just in it for the love of the game. You know it's true because he testified that before Congress.
No one has ever lied under testimony in front of Congress. All right. Anyways, that's funny. All right. So we're gonna let's see a little bit more of this, and then we're gonna skip ahead to Linus.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
okay.
and we need to read the one guy saying he discovered this.
Oh, yeah.
That made us decide to read the article.
It was so good that I actually went, okay, I'll read this.
Okay.
All right. I would like to at least look at Linux, but I cannot since I run a 68,000 based machine. In any case, it's nice having the kernel independent.
That's a weird place to start arrays. So it's like 1 based, 0 based, 68,000 based.
It really is. That is a very strange
That's
place.
where all of my arrays start. 68,000.
Yep, 68,000 is what I usually. It's like 4i equals 68,000. Mm-hmm. In any case, it's nice having the kernel independent, since patches like the multi-threaded FS patch don't have to exist in a different version for each CPU. I second everything AST said. Oh, he must have a middle name of S.
Yeah.
Except that I would like to see
That's
the.
such a sick name.
Yeah,
for
I
someone
know.
who gets to work on programming.
Yeah.
Oh, abstract syntax tree's my name, brother. Don't
Yeah.
wear it out. You know.
What's
Put
your
the
name?
tokens in the
AST.
bag, little bro. Like,
Don't worry, I got the context. I can handle this. Except that I would like to see the kernel more independent from everything else. Why does the Intel architecture not allow? Wait, or how do you do like tildes? Not.
you got to go like this. Not like you're reading
Yeah,
it in
yeah.
italics. You know.
Not allow drivers to be independent programs. I also don't like the fact that the kernel and FS, MM and FS share the same configuration files. Since they are independent, they should have more sense. Oh man, that smoothie made me have a little bit of gas in my belly or something. They should have more sense of independence. David, all right? Dude, bro's at Center of Medieval Studies.
No.
Dude, that's pretty sweet.
No wonder he's got time to contribute to the Linux kernel. He's like, this one will be a beef for the ages.
This shall be heralded.
The guild doth declare it is the day of Linux fighting. May you join in a jousting for all.
Will Sir Linux himself appear? Potential. All right. Okay, we're back with Tanenbaum. The driver have to read and write the device registries in I/O space, and this cannot be done in user mode on the 286 and 386. If it were possible to do I/O in the protected way in user space, all the I/O tasks could have been user programs like FS and MM. Tanenbaum. Okay. All right. Let's see if we see a little bit of maybe like flaming starts here with Kevin Brown.
Yeah.
KB kind of feels like a guy coming in getting ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah. Of course, there are some things that are best left to the kernel, be it micro or monolith, like things that require playing with the processes stack and signal handling, like memory allocation, things like that. The microkernel design is probably a win, all in all, over monolithic design, but it depends on what you put in the kernel and what you leave out. All right, then he talks about a lot about this last one. Minix is a microkernel design of sorts. The problem is that it gives special privileges to MM and FS when there shouldn't be any, at least for FS. It also fails to integrate most of the functionality of MM into the kernel itself, and this makes things like signal handling and memory allocations really ugly. If you did these things in the kernel itself, then signal handling would be as simple as setting the virtual interrupt vector and causing signaled process to receive that interrupt, with the complication that the system call might have to be terminated, which means that the message would have to be sent to every process that is servicing the process's system call, if any. It's considerations like these that make the monolith kernel design appealing.
So that is like
That makes sense.
Am I correct in thinking that is more or less what happens for Linux right now? Like I'm just thinking of syscalls. You just like register a syscall handler, it gets called. I don't know if it does all of the little things he's saying. Like, I don't know exactly what a virtual interrupt vector is, but I'm imagining.
I understand all those words individually.
True, yeah.
I kind of understand interrupts. You understand interrupts, right? Because
Yeah.
you've done like at least like SIG in,
Like
right?
this.
No, not like that.
Like
one.
this.
No, I mean actually,
Like
yeah,
this.
actually just like that.
Yeah,
That's just like that.
Yeah.
Good call. But I mean, at least you've done like SIG-int handling of
Yes,
your program.
right.
So you press Control C, something has to tell it it's time to end. You need to move on with your life.
Right, and you don't. And in doing those, it is literally just saying like, I want to handle this signal. It's very
Yeah.
easy to do.
And so I guess his argument is that for these microkernels to exist, they have to have these weird special privileges because you ultimately have to be able to somehow still have interrupts to go off, memory allocation, all these other
Did you
things.
see Judo's thing?
No.
Minix had the right idea, but I always read that Tanenbaum was kind of arrogant to the point that it was easier to work with someone else. He was the original Rust community.
You're telling me that they talked with Tanenbaum, an entire branch of technology that may have been better, died because it was easier to work with Linus.
Yeah.
Linus, well known for
That-
not being
that's-
easy to work with, was easier enough to work with.
That's actually such a hilarious one too. Like, oh, of all the people in the world you could pick to be like, that guy's easier to work with, Torvalds is not the top of my list.
He's never actually on a list.
Yeah, that's so funny. But it does, actually, back to the thing we were saying earlier, it does make a strong point that sometimes social or relational or other things are more important than the technology. This is useful not just for like, oh, which operating system is going to win. This is useful for you. I'll point it to you
Yeah,
out here
you.
listening. This is important for your career. You could be a really good engineer, but if you're a jerk to work with, people are going to pick Torvalds instead of you, okay?
It's true. You know, I can't tell you how many technologies I just choose to use because I like the people.
Yeah.
Like I like Go, and a lot of it is because a lot of the audience of Go, they're like, yeah, Go's pretty great.
Yeah.
And
they're
people are like,
let's
oh,
make
Go
fun
sucks.
of Go.
And then people, they're like, yeah, it's pretty crap. But I like to use it.
Or like Laravel, like with Taylor
Yeah.
yesterday, and when we went to Laracon, I was like, oh, everyone's like so nice and well adjusted to life.
I will just use PHP to not use TypeScript.
Yeah. We're not saying anything about the community, but I did say some descriptors that I was surprised at a conference for Laravel.
Yeah, well adjusted.
Well adjusted.
They were very, very nice. I actually really enjoyed my time there.
Yeah.
But it is true. I use Ghosty because I think Hashimoto's a nice guy.
Yeah. Right, that's part of it, yeah.
I don't use Kitty because the maintainer, I've seen him just flame people on issues. And I'm like, oh, I'm just not going to use it because I don't like how he communicates.
Yeah, and this it's very underrated for thinking about your career and other stuff like that. You just get salty and like mad at people because you think you're better at tech than someone else, which could
And
be
you could be true. Very
yeah,
true.
like you're probably right. You're in this chat, obviously. High IQ, handsome, probably married with kids,
Working out and fit.
working out and fit, not on Arch Linux, like classic characteristics of this chat, literally me. And so then it's like maybe that's not you, but you know, you could literally be better at that work, but if no one likes to work with you, it really doesn't matter.
It really doesn't matter. That's actually the number one way I saw people fail is at Netflix, I mostly saw people fail not because of technical reasons. It was almost exclusively because they were very technically smart and they'd just be like, I got it. Everybody else shut up. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And then they just deliver a 5,000 line change PR and people are like, that's it. I cannot review one more of his 5,000 line PR that he rewrote that I just wrote yesterday. Get him out, right? Like I've seen that happen multiple times. I've never seen...
Yeah, or even like you could be the guy that chips 5,000 line PRs. I've worked with some, but they like get on a call, walk you through. They're helpful. Like, okay,
Yeah.
he ships a lot of code. He's going to write a lot of code. What are you going to do? You know, and
Yeah.
so, but you know, so it's like you could be the guy that ships 5,000 line PRs, but are you also the guy that gets on the phone and like walks through or goes over to someone's desk and says, hey, I just shipped a big feature. Can we like sit and walk through and you can review this together? You
Yeah.
can see what I might have missed, like what you think I could improve or do better instead of, there's a $5,000 or 5,000 line present gift from God to this company. You guys better merge this or I'm going to throw a fit. Like,
I know you just wrote this feature yesterday and I communicated nothing to you in your PR and just rewrote it today.
yeah.
Trust me, it's better.
I know, yeah. I know
Dude.
you were working on this. I saw your PR, so I wrote my own PR. Dude, that is a surefire way for no one to like you.
It's
Yeah.
surefire. All right. All right, but this is a good point though he's making, which is that it does make signal handling and memory allocations and
Oh,
various
this is a
things.
good question, even though it's
Go on.
off topic. Scroll back up a little bit, but it's a
Okay.
good one. Neil. Chat needs to hear you answer this one.
Okay, which one?
Scheming lunatic right here. By the way, what's up?
All right. As someone with ADHD, how do you learn not to say random off-color things at the workplace? I've said things that make people look at me really weird. Some people like my sense of humor, but then others think I'm a creep. So there's various filtering things that you need to do. You need to learn which ones you should not make the joke about.
Yeah.
Right? Like I have a lot of jokes that I could have made already. I just don't make them because I've realized that some I think are funny, but if they don't know exactly who you are and they don't get you and they aren't like a long-term friend, they might go, That sounds weird.
Yeah. I would say you need to build a little bit of rapport with people first.
Yeah.
Even before you make like basically any joke, right? Because you just need to know what they're going to think is funny, what they enjoy, what they like laughing at. You got to have a little bit of context on the person, especially at work.
Yeah.
Like work
Work is weird, by the way. Work is
Work
weird.
is different than other places. Like, you know, in my mind, work, the first thing you got to do is ship your stuff, right? So it's like, that's the thing that comes first. I'm more on the like, I don't really need to talk about politics and other stuff at work.
Yeah.
That can be my own personal life stuff, whatever. So you need to be kind of like, you got to do that part first. And so if you're like, oh, let's just jump right to like making fun of something or like doing an off-color joke, you haven't gotten any social capital with people yet to sort of figure that out or find out that you're not like crazy or insane.
I think a good way to measure it is take your joke and how edgy is that joke, and then apply the same principle of talking about politics. How intense are these politics you're bringing up? Probably elicit very similar responses from people.
Yeah.
No one knows who you are, and you just come in and you drop like a crazy joke that might be perceived as sexist. They just might think you're sexist.
Yeah.
They might not realize that
And that's like
you're a different
reasonable
person.
of them.
That's reasonable. Yeah.
Because the thing is, you only have so many. You only get one chance at a first impression.
Yeah.
Right. And people have to make a decision at the first impression or
Yeah.
the second impression. So they're like, they have to do that. They can't not do it. What are they just going to do? They're going to stare at you blankly for the first 30 interactions till you've established.
I don't
your
have enough
personality.
data on this person. I gotta wait for a little while. No, you're gonna say one thing, or you might not say anything at all, and just your body language, and boom, you're like out. And yes,
Okay.
yeah,
In this case, if what's happening to you is you walk away later, 15 minutes later, and realize it was not an okay joke, then that tells me you need to stop making jokes.
yeah,
Until you can be confident that it's not. Same way, like, okay, if you used to have problems with alcohol, you don't go to the bar.
yeah.
Because
it's a
then
good
you're
way.
saying, like, oh, I make dumb decisions there. Okay, right? So it's the same thing. If I keep making dumb decisions with jokes,
Just don't make a joke for a little bit.
time for me to slow down, pump the brakes on the joking until I can be a little more confident, or until they know me well enough to know that I'm just well regarded.
Just clinically regarded individual.
Joke harder. That's not the good advice.
Incorrect. Go all in. Joke all the time.
I know I have dark humor, so I don't say jokes at work. Smart.
Yeah, I mean, dark humor is one of those ones that can like really rub people the wrong way.
Yeah.
like that's a very easy one to make people think you're weird. Jork harder is the answer.
You cannot.
Jork hard, don't joke hard.
Actually, okay, here, I actually have the...
Jorking, by the way, is like such an inside joke that I wouldn't make this joke in like at work. I probably wouldn't go to work and be like, "Boys, we jorked it today." Like that would not land because people would be like, "What? What is? Did he just ask us to masturbate?"
That...
like,
So here's where it is. If you're not already 100% comfortable with the person and they're not 100% comfortable with you, if the message would fit and blend in Twitch chat, don't send it.
that, my friends, is the best.
That's the metric.
advice.
Think, would I send this in Prime's chat? Yes? Okay. Save it for chat later. Get to farm some Keck W's.
you get all sorts of Keck W's.
Farm some Keck W's.
So true. In fact,
Save it for later.
that's why streaming exists, for you to make those jokes in a controlled environment. You get to come in here and say, the best part is like, long as you're not completely unhinged, you could actually say those jokes, and even if no one laughs, you still get to say them and you get in no trouble.
Yeah.
Honestly, just don't be yourself at work. This will also help keep things professional.
Yeah, you need to be the professional version of you. There's lots of different versions of me. Like the way that I interact with like my coworkers is way different than the way I interact with my wife.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't
like,
bring my whole self to work. I am not a whole selfer to work.
Yeah, I don't bring my whole self to anywhere. Like the way
Yeah.
that I would tackle a problem at work would be like, hey guys, let's get to the bottom of this. Let's like find out what the root issue and like all this stuff. When I talk with my wife, I'm like, that does suck, honey.
Yeah.
I can empathize with that. I don't say I can empathize with that, but that's the idea. You know,
Yeah.
So it's just different because I'm trying to do different stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how I talk to my coworker,
Is
like
this the Brawlers?
I'd be
Wrong
fired
video.
for my whole self. Yeah,
I'd be fired from my whole self. dude, bad luck, Brian. Brought my whole self to work. Fired.
Let's make the meme. Here we go. Bad luck. This is such an old meme.
I love Bad Luck Brian, dude. He's a really underutilized in the current landscape. Brought whole self to work. I think you got to do 2 words for whole self, right?
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's like.
Is it? Because it's not. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you're probably right. Whole self podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is. Okay.
They're the ones that would know. They
Yeah.
have a podcast about
Fired. That's good enough. That is a good bad luck. Poor bad luck, Brian.
My favorite one for my favorite Bad Luck Brian meme I've ever seen. As a face, only a mother could love. 2 dads.
Poor bad luck, Brian. Oh, I feel bad for him. All right.
Back to the article.
Back to the article. Okay. Flip. I think you can
No,
pretty much
leave
keep
it
that
in.
whole thing in.
Leave
That,
it in,
that
it's
seems
great.
like a reasonable ADHD.
If someone gets that far into the video of us reading this, they're definitely interested in us saying random things about workplace jokes.
Yeah. All right. The entire system call interface in Minix needs to be rethought. As it stands right now, I mean, no project will ever get done. The file system is not just a file system. It's also a system call server. That functionality needs to be separated out in order to facilitate a multi-file system architecture. Message passing is probably the right way to go. Is that small talk being mentioned?
Elixir mentioned?
Elixir mentioned about making the call and Erlang and waiting for it. But the message should go into a system call server, not just a file system itself. That is Erlang. Guys describing
Message
Erlang.
passing, very
Yeah.
based.
Yeah.
Very based.
Objective-C also has message passing.
Yeah.
In order to handle all the special caveats of the Unix API, you end up writing a monolithic kernel even if you're using a microkernel base. You end up with something called a server, and an example is that BSD server that runs under mock. And in any case, the message passing in Minix needs to be completely redone. So it sounds like Minix, everything needs to be redone.
You know what I just realized?
What?
Is if I were an NCIS writer or any other Hollywood movie writer, I would just be pulling paragraphs out from this to
Yeah.
use in the, because they always make up stupid stuff like I'm gonna build a IP tracker in Visual Basic GUI with an editor.
Yeah.
You know, but like they could pull this out, and one, it's way more of a diss. Right, so it's like more engaging. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, your whole system needs to be redone. It's not even doing the low-level message passing that's present in Minix. You know? This would be so much better.
It
too.
would be so good.
Yeah.
Even in 1992, Minix had this. What are you? You know, it's just like, oh. All right, I've been giving some thought, but I haven't had time to do anything with what I've thought so far. So, hey, I'm in
Relatable.
this picture and I do not like it.
Some things never change.
Suffice it to say that the proper way to do message passing is probably with message ports being both public and private with various. Okay, let's.
Wow, look at this. Keep going.
Okay.
Where's Linus's first thing? No, I'm saying like he really went hard.
Linus Benedict
I did not know
Torvalds,
his middle name was Benedict.
LBT.
LBT.
All right. Well, with a subject like this, I'm afraid I have to reply. I mean, honestly, I don't blame the guy. He started off as a hobby project and now has the world on his shoulders. And Atlas. Okay.
keep going. Yeah.
Apologies to Minix users who have heard enough about Linux anyways. I'd like to be able to just ignore the bait, but time for some serious flame festing.
Dude, they're already doing clickbait in 1992. Everyone's acting like you're the problem, like you were the one who invented clickbait thumbnails. They were doing clickbait titles and thumbnails in 1992 on the Linux forum.
Look at this. And not only that,
It's the same thing.
I'm going to use this as my YouTube title.
It's the same thing.
We've been doing this for decades at this point. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
They summoned the Balrog.
Yeah.
They dug too deep. All right. So let's see. So this is the initial sentence by Andy Tanenbaum.
Yeah. Right.
You use this as an excuse for the limitations of Minix. Sorry, but you lose.
Loose.
He's like, you
You
lose.
lose, boy. You lose.
I've got more excuses than you have, and Linux still beats the pants off of Minix in almost all areas. Not to mention the fact that most of the good code for PC Minix seems to have been written by Bruce Evans. Ripped.
Holy cow, he went, even the good parts of your thing was written by someone else?
Oh, got him. Damn, this is a diss track.
This is awesome.
Okay, RE1. You doing Minix as a hobby. Look at who makes money off of Minix and who gives Linux out for free. Then talk about hobbies. Make Minix freely available, and one of my biggest gripes with it will disappear. Linux has very much been a hobby, but a serious one, the best type. For me, I get no money for it. It's not even part of any of my studies in the university. I've done it all on my own and on my own machine.
Dang, so based.
Dude, it's so... Well, I mean, I think what I really like about... This also just goes to show a huge problem with tech. Availability makes a huge difference. Isn't that part of the reason why Betamax never took off? Even Betamax being a superior technology had some sort of like trademark requirements, or only Sony could produce something, or there was like some sort of withholding for why Betamax never went.
Yeah, I don't know. At my house, we weren't allowed to watch Betamax, only Alphamax. My dad said, I'm not raising no betas.
How long? I saw you think of that joke. Like, I actually saw you think of
As
it.
soon as you said Betamax, I was like,
I saw you go, got a joke, locked and loaded. So I knew you were going to say something. I just didn't realize it was going to be that dumb. Like, I didn't.
we're Alphamaxing in this house, son.
This is a Sigma Max only, brother.
Max house.
All right. R2, your job is being a professor and researcher. That's one hell of a good excuse for some of the brain damages of Minix.
Oh.
This is before Linus went to counseling.
This guy's the easier guy to work with. This guy's the easier guy.
I'd rather work with this guy, honestly. This feels easier. Okay. Wow. I can only hope and assume that Amoeba doesn't suck like Minix does. Microkernel versus monolithic system. True. Linux is monolithic, and I agree that microkernels are nicer. With a less argumentative subject, I'd probably have agreed with most of what you said. From a theoretical and aesthetical standpoint, Linux loses. If the GNU kernel had been ready last spring, I'd not have bothered to even start my project. Oh, that's kind of crazy. Like, Linux was birthed out of an unreadiness of GNU.
And literally by like a year or something. Well, I guess
Yeah.
I don't know when they actually finished it, right? But he's just
Yeah.
saying like, I wouldn't have even tried this.
Yeah, the fact that it wasn't and still isn't. Okay. So it's been a while.
Very GNU of them.
Very GNU.
Yeah.
Linux wins heavily on points of being available now.
PR's talk.
PR's talk. Minix is a microkernel-based system. Deleted, but not so that you miss the point. Linux is a monolithic style system. If this was the only criterion for the goodness of a kernel, you'd be right. What you don't mention is that Minix doesn't do the microkernel thing very well and has problems with real multitasking in the kernel. If I made an OS that had problems with multi-threading file system, I wouldn't be so fast to condemn others. In fact, I do my damnedest to make others forget about the fiasco. Man, he is tearing it apart.
Oh, and just the way the turns of phrase. Yeah, like, well, if I hadn't been able to make this, I'd also try and make people to forget about this fiasco. Like, dude, it's so good. Can you just imagine him? He's sitting on his keyboard. Oh, yes. And do you think he's like, or like what's
He's typing super hard, laughs to himself.
And there's like a giggle. Like the room's dark. He's lit only by the light of his monitor.
Yeah.
Fiasco.
Fiasco.
Period.
Should I go on?
We shall.
Yes. Right. Yes, I know there are multi-threaded hacks for Minix, but they are hacks. And Bruce Evans tells me there are lots of race conditions. Dang. Crazy. All right, 2. Portability! Portability is for people who cannot write new programs. Me, right now, with tongue-in-cheek.
Oh, that is the sickest way to do a quote, Diz.
Dude, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try this next.
Right now, with tongue-in-cheek.
Dude, instead of, like, responding to a tweet, just quote what you were going to say and then just say me right now.
With tongue-in-cheek. It's the highbrow /ass, dude.
Oh, the fact is that Linux is more portable than Minix. What? I hear you
What?
say. It's true, but not in the sense that AST means. By the way, that's Tanenbaum.
Yeah.
He does not. It turns out Linux capitalizes nothing. I made Linux as conformant to standards as I knew how, without having any POSIX standard in front of me. Porting things to Linux is generally much, I'm not even sure how to do that one, much easier than porting them to Minix. I agree that portability is a good thing, but only where it actually has some meaning. There is no idea in trying to make an operating system overly portable. Adhering to portable API is good enough. The very idea of an operating system is to use the hardware features and to hide them behind a layer of high-level calls. That is exactly what Linux does. It just uses a bigger subset of the 386 features than other kernels seem to do. Of course, this makes the kernel proper unportable, but it also makes for much simpler design, an acceptable trade-off, and one that made Linux possible in the first place.
This is just like Fish, where they were like, they're rewriting and everything.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we couldn't figure out how to make it work on Windows, but who cares? Or like, we can make a better product because we're not actually going to try and do that thing.
That's a good, yeah. Fish, for those that don't know, Fish just rewrote their shell, or has been rewriting their shell for the last 2 years from C++ into Rust, and they landed their beta in. Sorry, I said beta.
Yeah.
They landed their Sigma in December, and they've officially released it today, 4.0, all Rust and a tiny bit of C. And one of the reasons they don't even try to support Windows. Because they're Unix. They're like, we're Unix. That's it. We don't care. We're just not a part of it. I think Linus makes a good point because if you try to adhere to everything, like, do you really want to support some bespoke thing? Do you really want to even support Haiku? Well, I mean, if you had enough man hours, maybe, but it also limits your future potential the more you support.
This is similar to like when we were talking to Taylor about Laravel Cloud, where it's like, oh, well, other cloud providers are going to do like everything okay. They're going to try and do Laravel excellent. Right? Like sometimes this extends further than just operating systems, right? It's like, well, I'm going to make this one thing that's excellent at doing like this one thing.
Yeah.
Instead of being good at everything, which it usually isn't possible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as much as I hate to say it, I think this is one thing that Vercel has done well. They've obviously made launching Next.js as easy as possible that people can go and accidentally rack a $100,000 bill. Like it's actually so easy. Fair,
I did launch
scale.
the one monkey one on Vercel in like 5 seconds, and I never made a Next.js project before. So they did actually do a legit job. Yeah.
It's just that it's so easy to auto scale.
Yes,
that you could auto scale yourself right out of a house.
Yeah.
I also agree that Linux takes the non-portability to an extreme. I got my 386 last January, and Linux was partly a project to teach me about it. Many things should have been done more portably if it would have been a real project. I'm not making overly many excuses about it, though. It was a design decision, and until last April, when I started the thing, I didn't think anybody would actually want to use it. I'm happy to report I was wrong, and as my source is freely available, anybody is free to try to port it, even though it won't be easy. Linus. P.S. I apologize for sometimes sounding too harsh. Minix is nice enough if you have nothing else. That's the most insane apology I've ever heard in my lifetime. That apology is just crazy.
Your wife's pretty if you've never seen another woman. Dude, you look handsome if there's not a lot of other guys left.
Oh my gosh. Sorry. Not so sorry. Amoeba might be nice if you have 5 to 10 spare 386s lying around, but I certainly don't. I don't usually get into flames, but I am touchy when it comes to Linux.
So that explains so much, because it seems like you always get into flame wars, but that's because the only time we read stuff from him is about Linux.
Yeah.
So he's really not a flamey guy.
Maybe he's not a flamey guy. Maybe. I have no idea.
Can we get the next A? Oh,
yeah, there we go. We want one more AST, right? Here we go. Okay, this was a great one. You use this, being a professor, as an excuse for the limitations. Oh, that was great. Then he said it called it brain dead as well.
Yeah.
The limitations of Minix relate at least partly to my being a professor. An explicit design goal was to make it run on cheap hardware so students could afford it. In particular, for years, it ran on a regular 4.77 megahertz PC with no hard disk. You could do everything here, including modify and recompile the system. Just for the record, as of about 1 year ago, there were 2 versions, one for the PC 360K diskettes, and one for the 286, 386, 1.2 megabyte. Wow, these numbers are just like
They're tossing them around like these are huge.
I know these are like huge because if you just open up the network tab to just this, and I refresh this.
Did you refresh on the? There we go.
Here, I'll just open up a new one. It didn't. I must have not refreshed it, but this will just make it easier not to lose your spot. This one is larger than the operating system.
And Google Groups is like the lamest forum site that exists.
Yeah. And that was only loading the first initial part because look, it's still logging things as I'm going.
Oh yeah, now we're many operating systems deep now.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
All right, let's close that. Let's keep going. Okay,
Yep.
So I mean, I guess this does make design goals obviously different.
Yeah,
So he
it
is
doesn't
right.
make sense.
Okay, I don't have figures, but my guess is that the fraction of the 60 million existing PCs that are 386
60 million.
Yeah, that's kind of a crazy statement to make.
There's more PC. There's like more PCs in like an apartment building in New York City.
At this point, there is literally, we have 800 and some thousand people that live in South Dakota. There might be 60 million pieces of compute hardware if you also include like cell phones or other things that run.
I was thinking like literally at your house.
My kids have 60 million devices here. Let's see. Among students, it is even smaller. Making software free, but only for the folks with enough money to buy first-class hardware is an interesting concept.
He's got him a little bit there. You got to give him a point.
Yeah.
This is like, our AI thing is accessible. You just need $1 billion of hardware to run it.
Yeah, it's for free if you
Yeah.
want it. Mm-hmm. I think this is also communism mentioned. But of course, 5 years from now, that will be different. But 5 years from now, everyone will be running free GNU on their 200 MIPS 64M Spark Station 5.
I'm guessing that didn't happen.
I mean, I did know one person that worked on MIPS, but I don't, like, none of these other things happen that I know of. Does anyone know what a Spark Station 5 even is?
Well, I'm imagining it wasn't out yet. Like maybe they never even got that far. Did they get that far, chat?
ASD rewrote it for 386 with breaking changes, and it still sucked.
He was worse than Linus and just salty.
ASD was just worse than Linus T. was just salty. MIPS, 1 million instructions per second. No, MIPS is
It's an instruction set, similar to like Intel's x86 and ARM stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But MIPS is still taught some places. Like I learned MIPS because it's simpler. This is like good for academic stuff.
Okay, yeah, I've never done any of this stuff. This, like, generally speaking, hardware stuff is just not in my wheelhouse at all.
Yeah.
Let's see. Your job being a professor and a researcher, that's one hell of a good excuse to make some for some brain damages of Minix. Amoeba was not designed to run on the 8088 with no hard disk. If this was the only criterion for goodness of a kernel, you'd be right. What you don't mention is that Minix doesn't do microkernel thing very well. Okay, then he talks about that. A multi-threaded file system is only a performance hack.
This guy sees the future of operating systems 20 years into the future.
This guy knows. This guy knows things.
Oh.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
When there is only one job active, the normal case on a small PC, that's also hilarious.
Yeah. It's the normal case.
Why would you ever have anything else running than one job on a PC?
Yep.
And when he says PC, remember, he's not referring to like a server that's running a job. He's referring to a personal computer at that point.
Yes.
We're talking about what's running in your house.
Yep.
It buys you nothing and adds complexity to the code. On machines fast enough to support multiple users, you probably have enough buffer cache to ensure a hit cache rate. Oh, where are you going?
I have an emergency call from my wife.
Uh-oh, emergency call from wife. All right, in case, multi-threading also buys you nothing. It is only a win when there are multiple processes actually doing real disk I/O. Whether it is worth making the system more complicated for this case is at least debatable. I still maintain that the point that designing a monolithic kernel in 1991 is a fundamental error. Be thankful you are not my student. You would not get a high grade for such a design. Smiley face. You know, the crazy part is that the internet was like known. Like there was obviously known that the internet is growing at this point, right? Yes, it is very funny. You are making a fundamental error, and Linux also became the most successful open source project of all time. The only more successful open source project one could argue could very well be SQLite. It's like that. That's what you're comparing it against. You're comparing it against the levels of like your mom. No, that's what we used against. I guess that too. Yeah, SSL might also be up there, right? DeepSeek, right? Blender. I don't think so. Blender's not even close. Kubernetes, dude, not even close. Squillite, curl, Linux, yeah. Even the web existed in 91. Yeah, so people knew that the web was starting to like exist. My mom was telling me about the internet nearish that age. When I was like 6 years old, I knew that the internet existed and that things were happening and that we were going to be seeing some sort of like data transfer. You were going to be able to go visit anywhere in the world is what she told me. And that was like really cool. That was when we had Windows 3.5, but we had to log into Windows 3.5. It just didn't start up. You had to go in DOS, you had to install Doom, and you had to launch Doom from the command line. HTTP is from 1991, yeah. So the World Wide Web, yeah. And so like how many businesses are basically an FFmpeg wrapper? A lot of them. Are you talking about React? We're not talking about React. But it's kind of crazy, to think that like this is kind of wild to know that like things are shaping up and you're seeing this huge growth and you're like an academic and you're seeing all this and I guess it's very easy to be an expert. My big takeaway, I know I like TJ's takeaway with the whole AI hype thing, but I think the other takeaway is that it's very easy to be an expert in something and not be able to just see what is plainly available potentially, right? Or at least how the world will shape. Being an expert in something gives you no right to predict the future. Maybe that's like the best way to say it, is that doesn't matter how smart you are. 5 years from now, this man is just absurdly wrong, right? Just absurdly incorrect. The fact is that Linux is more portable than Minix. What? I hear you say. It's true. All right, Minix was designed before POSIX, and is now being slowly POSIXized, as everyone who follows this news group knows. Everyone agrees that user-level standards are a good idea. As an aside, I congratulate you for being able to write POSIX conform a system without having the POSIX standard in front of you. I find it difficult enough after studying the standard with great length. My point is that writing a new operating system that is closely tied to any particular piece of hardware, especially a weird one like the Intel line, is basically wrong. Again, like the future is funny. The future is funny. And OS itself should be easily portable to new hardware platforms. When OS 360 was written in assembler for the IBM 360 25 years ago, they probably could be excused. When MS-DOS was written specifically for the 8088 10 years ago, this was less than brilliant, as IBM and Microsoft now only too painfully realize. Writing a new S only for the 386 in 1991 gets you your second F for this term. But if you do real well on the final exam, you still may pass the course. Professor Andrew S. Tanenbaum. So now that you've witnessed the passive-aggressive sarcasm, I think you can understand why everyone preferred Torvald's acidity directness. Yes. Obviously, I prefer the straightforwardness of it all, right? I'd rather be called an idiot than be called an idiot in 400 words, right? Like, I'm too stupid to be able to understand gigantic talking to. Like, thank you, Nightshade Dude. Thank you. Like that, I can get this. See, I can get that. That I can understand. I get that. It's all that other stuff. You're here to help. Thank you. See, like that, I'm tracking right now. Is there any more, Linus? We'll give. Oh, okay, Linus. Well, let's say the subject. I'm afraid I have to reply. In reply, I did with complete abandon and no thought for good taste and etiquette. Ooh, nice. I apologize to AST and thanks John and Nail for a friendly "that's not how it's done" letter. I overreacted and am now composing a much less acerbic personal letter to AST. Hope nobody was turned away from Linux due to it. A, possibly obsolete. I still think that's not the case, although some of the criticisms are valid. And B, written by a hothead. Linux, my first and hopefully last Flamefest, Torvalds. Canceled in 1992. I know, but this is actually pretty... this actually is a side of Linux or Linus that's pretty cool. I guess you could see that, the man may reply hotly in various times, but at least like you can still have a conversation with him later and he can actually change his mind. So that's cool. Like being able to change your mind is awesome. Also, I'm pretty sure is there a narrator? Indeed, it was not his last Flamefest. Torvalds would go on to be known as one of the greatest Flamefesters of all time. In fact, he would end up going to counseling, and after counseling, he would come out a changed man, who Flamefested only 80% of what his previous record was. Linus was a nice dude before half the internet blamed him for all their personal problems. I'm sure he's actually a pretty nice dude to this day. Oh, hey, that was on my birthday. Oh, nice, January 30th. Congratulations. The master of the flame. Keeper of the flame, really. Nice voiceover technique, Prime. Thank you. Thank you. Only 80%. Only 80%. The world will fall apart when he's gone. The world will actually fall apart when he's gone. People don't realize, like, you think that, like, 2038 or 2036, the big time thing coming up, that's probably going to screw a couple things up. Y2K, nuclear weapons. No, none of them were actually the cause of the end of the world. It was actually Linus dying a premature death due to holding the world on his shoulders. That would actually be the ending. Can you do 5 minutes of ASMR? Yeah, we could do that at some point. You thought Y2K was bad. Wait till Linus dies. Yeah, exactly. The chaos. Especially if he dies all of a sudden, right? That would be crazy. Nuclear. The world ends in 2038. Exactly. All right, here we go. Hold on. There was someone that's, let's see. Okay, Einstein. Let's see. Einstein got lousy grades in math and physics. Oh, that's funny. So they're arguing a whole bunch of stuff right here. And Dan Quayle got low grades in political science. I think that there are more Dan Quayles than Einstein out there. But the existence of Linux suggests that we may have more of an Einstein than a Quayle here. I like how it has actually broken into like politics and all that. In fact, Einstein got good grades. Yeah, I think that's like supposed to be a misnomer, right? He actually got pretty good grades, right? I'm pretty sure that he actually was known for getting good grades. There was like some period or some small thing that happened in which he got a bad grade for. And like that was it. He had bad grades in biology. Yeah, I mean, can you blame a guy? Can you blame a guy with such intense weaponized autism? He just wants to do math and physics and predicts literally 100 years into the future about like EM drives and all that. That bro just didn't do that good in biology. Like, yeah, I mean, really? Like, are you going to really blame the guy? It's all relative. God, I wish I was autistic. Dissect the frog, Albert. You need to cut it open. I want you to write down every organ you see. And he's just like, right? Like, I don't blame the guy. That was all alien science from the Roswell crash. Oh, damn. Anyways, this is great. I do love just how funny it is. My first and hopefully last Flame Fest, Torvalds. This might be just the funniest thing on the internet. By the way, for those that don't know, there was this one section way down here. Way down here. Where somehow we ran into this. The only reason why I'm reading this article is because of this guy right here. Whoever you are, someone at Yahoo. This was almost 10 years ago. Hello, are you still on the web? I doubt it. I'm sure you left it by now and much better things to do with your life now. But I have to say, thank you for making history. It's so amazing to see the aftermath of a 24-year-old flame war 8 years before my own birth with my own eyes, even if it's much different than the traditional ones we have today. Thanks again for creating art. Goodbye. What kind of poo? And now look at us. Approximately 8.5 years later, after this 8 years later business, we can say this is what traditional flame wars looked like. This is the traditional flame war, and it was beautiful. I must say, I'm a fan of traditional flame wars. I'm a fan. The name is, I hope this is my last video I'm going to do covering Linus. Again.